Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, I saw this very strange tweet from a red pillar, and it was contending that it's a red flag if a woman says she's celibate because she must have needed a break from all the blank blank she was doing. And that it was not a green flag, but a red flag, especially if she's a non-virgin. I'm going to be in the future dissecting that tweet on my blog, but I wanted to kind of do a little mini video on it without going too deep. That will help to maybe soften the hearts of some people, because this is very popular with the red pill crowd, especially pearly things who say men shouldn't have to wait for non-virgins when it comes to intimacy. So they contend that if you are a divorcee, a single mom, that you owe a man access to your body before they decide to marry you, which goes against Christianity, because fornication is a sin, right? Sex outside of marriage is a sin, and for us Muslims, we also know you are not supposed to commit zina, right? You're not supposed to have unlawful sexual intercourse. You're not supposed to do that. Now, polygamy helps single moms get married, and it allows men to have multiple women, and that helps women to not depend upon the state, but to have providers. Hopefully, the men are doing their jobs and not just abusing their rights over the women, but I digress. My point is that to make fun of women for reforming leads to a deep sense of nihilism and despair. Okay? And it is good that they decided to wake up and see what the reality is. People have to have mercy on some of these women who had no guideposts. They just didn't know. We're thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He guided us to a place where we could see the error of our ways, discover a new path, and then raise our children upon a better path. And we must remember, there are strong movements now that are called sex positive, where they push fornication to extreme degrees and ignore how men oftentimes don't desire this type of behavior, even though they practice the hypocrisy that enables it, such as paying women for those services, giving attention to those women, and stuff like that. But we have to give a way out, a redemption door to these women. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive them if they repent and reform, and they are sincere, and they don't spread that same sin around. I know that doesn't mean good men then have to go and wife them up and deal with all their trauma and baggage, but it does mean that we as women can shame an activity while also applauding women for changing. And so when they criticize these women for being celibate, that is actually causing them to continue in the same bad behavior. If you want someone to stop a bad behavior like that, you really have to encourage them to keep going. And they need support. They need to feel good about the new life they are trying to embark upon, lest they relapse and then really get themselves into some serious trouble. The predatory men want those women to feel like they can never change so that they can keep exploiting them, which is one reason why I think pearly things doesn't really help a lot of women. Because if you're saying, oh, you gave it up for free, now so-and-so has to wait till marriage, yeah. Who says that just because you're not a virgin, now you are degraded as a human being. And a man, therefore, doesn't have to treat you very well. And you get to disobey the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Christian version of God just because that person isn't a virgin now that they're going to marry you. And their logic doesn't make sense if they make this blanket statement on divorcees and single moms, but not widows. But the widow isn't a virgin, and she might have children. So their underlying ethics doesn't really make sense. It really doesn't. And it really shows you they don't have a sense of mercy. And they're not really mapping out the best persuasive strategies to get women to stop doing things that harm themselves and harm society. Shame is a very powerful tool, but so is forgiveness. And that doesn't mean you put those women on a pedestal, but it does mean that you say, you know what, that's great, keep going, help others to change too. Let's just keep on keeping on and lead by example. Leading by example can actually help quite a number of women change. Quite a number. But if they feel like, well, if I stop and then I say I'm celibate and so-and-so's going to make fun of me, then what's the point? You would be surprised how easy it is for Shaitan to make women not change, because there's so much temptation and incentives to actually not stop whoring around. So be aware that yes, there are some women who say I'm single and they're still sleeping around, but when a woman says she's being chaste and celibate, you should still be like, well, that's good. It's a start. If someone's trying to get sober from alcohol and you mock them for 2 weeks of sobriety, a month of sobriety, a year of sobriety, because you never were an alcoholic, that's going to be very demotivating for them. And some people, they're not as strong as others. And some sins are heavier on others, and they need a little bit of levity. They need some encouragement. Because in the darkest hours of their own mind's recess, they're going to need to hear words of encouragement. And if you encourage them, and they're really deep reflective moments where they feel like giving up, they will recall what you said in their memory bank. Be that voice that tells them, don't give in, don't go back to your old habits, and be steadfast. Have patience. Endure those temptations and calm yourself to the point where you can rationalize the scenario so that you don't enable and excuse yourself to keep the bad behavior that's harming you overall, mentally, spiritually, and whatnot. It's very important for us to give people a way out. A lot of young ladies are being deeply misguided, and it's all disguised as sexual revolution, sex positivity, because the people have become hyper fanatic about not discussing intimacy to the point where the people have caused a boomerang effect. And so we have to look at our scale. We have to look at, are we going to a too concise nature when trying to help someone escape, or are we over expanding our explanations to the point where it's a word salad? Really looking at each individual situation and helping that individual to further develop is going to turn more hearts and help people feel more sense of spiritual connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also convert to Islam, because it takes baby steps. So I don't agree with the red pill notion that if you're not a virgin on your wedding day, or if you get remarried, that you're somehow less, right? Because that would leave out a lot of women. a lot of women who would be otherwise good, stable mothers, and people can learn new habits. Sure, some old habits die hard, but some people can be good enough. And there are lots of people who can adopt and foster kids and give them a better life. So be careful on how you go about mocking and degrading women who are still so stuck in the hypersexualization phase that they're at least saying, you know what, I'm gonna be celibate. Don't dunk on them. Be like, yeah, good, you know? And the next step after that, and the next step after that. That's how it should be. So, if you see this trend, think about what I said. Let me know your thoughts if you've noticed it too. Because it's quite a growing thing, unfortunately. And I'll cover this more, inshallah, on my blog. But let me know what you think. And if you'd like to join the blog and support the channel and have some interesting exclusive content, it's www.subscribestar.com/MilahanArchive. Hope to see you there.